Hey guys, we're on another episode here where we're talking about the unemployment circumstances that are going on. Sarah's not joining me right next to me today. She's actually producing off camera. It's one of those days we've all been feeling it as kind of this quarantine's been going on, and Sarah's having one of these days where she didn't want to get out of her pajamas and said, hey, you know what, let's not be on camera today. Let's see what we can do with me off camera. So, hey, as long as we have Jeff Jacobson, who's talking to us about how to file, how to go through these unemployment issues, we're in good shape. And Sarah's going to be helping off camera, take some of the calls and read some of the calls to get those going. Jeff, I'm going to punch you up right here, and let's talk about some of the issues that are going on right now. One of the things, okay, Jeff, that, and again, just to introduce people, Jeff Jacobson's our advisor who's kind of been walking us through some of this unemployment situations that are going on. One of the things I wanted to ask, Jeff, is what's going on with the opening of the economy? I understand that the governor had a little bit of some resistance, opposition, maybe some a case that's gone against him in terms of judgment. Could you maybe shed some light on what's going on with that and how you think it's going to play out?
Sure. So I don't know. I haven't actually read the full complaint. I know that the legislature had said that it was for him and the constituents, although it's my understanding the complaint was just naming him, not the constituents in downstate. So it's one judge. The governor has to appeal it, so he'll be appealing. It may have already done it today. I think the governor's orders are superior. It sounds like it was just a political ploy to get his name out there. I mean, certainly there's a lot of people that want to get back to work.
No, absolutely. Hey, Jeff, notice you're driving. Just want to make sure you're safe and that you'll be pulling over soon. I don't want, because we've just had some people worried. But the most important thing here that we want to get across is some of the questions that are coming in regarding some problems that they're having. Sarah, has any come in that you want to address, or do you want to punch up any of our questions, callers?
Why don't we go with Amy?
Okay, go ahead and punch Amy up, Sarah, or is that Amy? We got you on camera here. You have a question for Jeff Jacobson, correct?
Yes, I do. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Amy.
Okay, so I got a UI finding letter that states, you know, what my employer has paid into as far as unemployment. Then I got a benefit finding explanation. And what I don't understand is it says your deductions are equal or greater to than your weekly benefit amount. See the detail below for individual deduction calculations. I work usually 40 to 50 hours weekly, and I'm cut down to just 18. I filed my unemployment on March the 29th, and I've yet to receive any benefits.
So the weekly benefit amount is the number less than what you're getting paid by your employer?
Yes.
Okay. So once the employer pays you more than the weekly benefit amount, and you know, I get this question a lot, then you're not entitled to the state unemployment benefits, and then also you're not entitled to the $600 weekly federal benefits.
Okay, so I'm supposed to certify again today, and I think when I filed my unemployment, that was my last working day, so that would have been like my normal 80-hour paycheck. So should I still continue? Because since then, I've only worked maybe 30 hours in a 2-week period.
So you want to certify every 2 weeks?
Okay.
Unless you believe you're going to be making more part-time than your weekly benefit amount is. But once you stop certifying, your unemployment benefits stop then.
Okay.
You're entitled to 26 weeks times your weekly benefit amount. So it's not, I guess it should be 26 times your weekly benefit amount. So until you spend that money, you get it, you're still entitled to it. So if for 2 weeks you don't get any weekly benefit amount, you're still entitled to that bank of money.
Okay.
I don't know if hopefully that made sense to the listeners out there. But yeah, so if you think your wages are going to reduce, I would then certify every 2 weeks.
Okay, because yeah, my wages have reduced since I first certified. So I think that's why my weekly benefit amount was so much, because when I filed, it was just the end of a 2-week pay period and I had 80 hours on that check. But since then, my hours have been cut substantially.
Okay, and then the other thing is, so I've gotten some people that have asked about this. It's if it turns out you had filed for unemployment years ago and you weren't entitled to the benefits, then the state would recoup it. And one way they recoup it is they wait for you to file for unemployment benefits again, and then they deduct it from your unemployment benefits.
Okay.
So there's some of the listeners out there, that may be one of their problems.
Amy, does that pretty much answer your question? Do you have any other follow-up questions for Attorney Jeff
Jacobson? That's it. I'll just certify again. Like I said, I know my hours have been reduced. I'll just certify again today because that's my certification date, and then just go from there.
Right. And if there's still problems, you can give me a call at 331-222-9529, or you can, go on. We'll be on every weekday at 1 o'clock. You can also ask the question here.
Can you repeat that number again for me, Jeff? Or is it in the Facebook group?
I don't know, but I'll repeat it. 331-222-9529.
Okay. Thank you so much for answering my questions. That was a great help.
Thank you, Amy, for calling in and asking questions. It looks like that's answered some questions for a couple other people, so we really do appreciate that as well. Okay, Jeff, one of the other things I'm going to ask you is, obviously, there's this drive to kind of open up some of the states that it's going on. We're seeing some of our surrounding neighbors are looking to see how they can reopen. And there's, of course, that situation that in Illinois, we're trying to see what plays out. What's your take on this? Do you think it's going to go through?
I apologize. Can you repeat that again? I was just parking, so I'm not moving now.
Oh, it's kind of like a part two of what we had talked about before with the kind of appeal with the governor, where there's a challenge to the opening of the state. And then looking at surrounding states where the governors are looking to reopen the economy. How do you think this is going to play out? Do you think this is going to change the numbers substantially?
So the legal issue, it only applies to the party to the case. So it wasn't the state of Illinois. So, and how law works is a judge can decide something, and that it applies to that judge, that case. When the appellate court makes a decision, it'll apply to the state of Illinois, unless other appellate courts in Illinois have decided something differently. So you can have two appellate courts in Illinois deciding, coming to different conclusions, and then it's up to the Illinois Supreme Court to decide which appellate court is right. Sometimes the Supreme Court doesn't decide on a case, and so we have what's called a split among the state of Illinois. But this is a reason on why judges are critical. So one judge in Illinois may have an impact on the state of Illinois, whether you like it or don't.
So, Jeff, but to understand, you said it only affects the party to the case. So does that mean that if there's an exemption or an injunction so that the stay-at-home doesn't enforce, it is only to the person who filed and not to all the citizens of Illinois? I just want to make sure I understand exactly what that means.
So it appears right now it was just, and I'm going blank on his name, but it was just him that was the party to the case.
Okay.
What was his name?
Sarah's looking it up right now. And she'll get that information.
So it just applies to him, but that's not to mean that other people can rely on that and go ahead and go about and, hope that eventually the Illinois Supreme Court or the appellate court will affirm this judge.
Okay. And if you're just joining us, I'm Raza Siddiqui. I'm on with Jeff Jacobson, who's been our unemployment advisor. Now, we've lost track of how many times we've had several seminars. Sarah, who usually joins me sitting right here, is off camera today, still in her PJs. We've all had those days during these stay-at-home orders where we feel kind of like that. Whoa, what did she just throw at me? But one of the things I do want to bring Sarah on, Sarah, if you could just kind of say hi to our listeners, and also if there's any questions, please let us know about those as well.
Hi everyone. There are questions kind of coming in right now. I'm in the middle of sharing this to the couple other groups that we moderate and co-host on. Again, just on a personal note, I think everybody out there is being super patient and kind of working through some of the challenges that we've been facing and having. One of the questions was from our Facebook viewer who wasn't able to join us, Susan. She said, if you can get answered, it would be great. What she's saying is basically, I made an appeal with a W-2 and a 1099. They denied me because of the 1099. The W-2 is for full-time work. The 1099 is a part-time real estate transaction where she works as a realtor. She works full-time and gets weekly checks for her business. The 1099 was for one transaction in real estate. Will that really make me get denied? Or is that something that I can go ahead and appeal again? Remember, she made an appeal and she filed.
Okay, so and I'm hoping when she says she made an appeal, that's to the appeal division and not she's disputing the local office. But so her W-2 wages, and I'm sorry, so it was lengthy. She had filed for her W-2 and was denied?
Yes.
Okay, so, and I don't know why she would have been denied. So she should be filing an appeal, but if it's because of COVID-19, she should be entitled to benefits. Okay, so, and I don't know why.
So is that something that, what specifically can she add, Jeff, in her appeal?
Well, so in the appeal, all you need to put down is that you don't agree with the local office determination.
That's about it.
That's all you really need to do. You need to sign it. You need to put your claimant number on it. But that's all that you need to do for the appeal.
Okay.
It's pretty straightforward, and then you can mail it or fax it in. You don't do it online. You don't do it by telephone. And then you'll get a appeal hearing shortly. And just so everyone knows, so an appeal is going to be very similar to a hearing or a trial. If there's documents, you need to submit them ahead of time to both the administrative law judge and the opposing party. There'll be an intro by the administrative law judge, and then both parties will be able to make an opening statement. Then depending whether it's 601 or 602, that's a statute for voluntary leaving or quitting. That party will present their case first, and then the other party can cross-examine them. And then the other party will present their case, and then the other side will cross-examine, and then both parties can make closing arguments. So it's just like a trial or hearing.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. I think there's some questions kind of coming around. What do you exactly have to do for certification? One of the questions specifically was, are you looking for work? Does she put yes as she's certified?
So you're going to want to put your able and available. If it's because of COVID-19, you're currently not working at your place. Union members, and we hadn't pointed this out in the past, union members have a different standard. All they have to do is put their name in the book. They don't have to be looking for jobs. The rest of the state of Illinois has to be looking for a job, even though you're in the house, because the governor says you have to stay in the house unless you're an essential worker. You're to put down that you're able to work, and that there's been no days that you've been unable to work. And the reason is, under the new definition, just because you're stuck in the house, they believe that you can, do work in the house. So that is the same. Whereas in the past, before COVID-19, if you had to stay in the house, the state found that you weren't available for work. Now the state says if you're able to stay in the house, it's still the same thing as looking for work and being able to, because there's work you can do in the house. Not saying you're going to find it, but that's the definition the state's using now.
Okay, so just as a follow-up, Brandy asked this question. She did say that she was available for work. After reading several posts, she said that she is furloughed and answered no to one of the ones where she applied for jobs. Should she wait for a denial, or should she call somebody to get this fixed?
She should try to call it to get it fixed. She may inevitably not get in or not find it could be fixed. So that's a certification, and she signs an affidavit. She affirms that what she submitted is true. So they may require her to go through an appeal. Hopefully it can get changed, so she should try to. But if her time frame is running out, she should definitely file an appeal to protect her rights. Otherwise, she won't get any money for that time, and it'll be too late. Yeah, so it's a good question, because a lot of people are saying they're not available for work because they have to stay in the house, and so they're getting denied. They're not getting a check, and that's the problem. So even though they're stuck in the house, put that you're able and available to work, and unless it's reason like you're in the hospital or ill and you really could not work anywhere else. It's not are you working, but could you work from the house? And if you're okay, everyone can. I mean, look at us. We're working from the house. I'm working from the car. So it's, there's plenty of things that you can do. Welcome back, Raza.
Thanks, Jeff. Just taking some calls as well regarding some of the questions that we have coming in, and also trying to share some of this. Do you have any more questions that are coming in?
I have tons of questions. Did you want them shared to a specific group? I think they're
no. I think just anything you have.
Okay.
And I've just I've reached out to the governor's office because the questions they're poorly worded for this current situation. So I'm trying to get the questions changed because they don't make any sense under the current situation. And to change the programming of the questions would be quite simple. It's, what happens to the answer and the data after, which wouldn't have to be changed. So hopefully the governor's office is going to change those questions instead of saying, are you available to work, to are you available to work or have something, related to the COVID-19 issue? A much better question, because too many people are getting denied. And just so everyone knows, when we talked, the three of us, and even maybe Sean Allen, I said that here's the problem with the current unemployment when people are filing, but there's going to be this next step when they certify. Here we are, most people are certified and having problems. There's going to be a third step with appeals. They're going to be overwhelmed with the appeals. And appeals right now are approximately 30 minutes long. There's 8 a day per administrative law judge. And, they're somewhat at capacity normally. So I don't know how they're going to handle all the appeals once people start filing them related to COVID-19. So, and I don't want to tell people to be patient, because this money under the federal law is designed to help people get through and to be able to feed them and pay for the housing right away.
Can you pin that to the
So,
top?
although right now there's a stay in evictions, and I might as well address this. It's a little off topic from our normal thing, but so the eviction stay by the governor just means the sheriff can't go in and remove a tenant. However, that doesn't mean a landlord can't file suit to remove you from the house. So if a landlord has given you a 5-day notice and you haven't complied with the 5-day notice, the landlord still can file suit to have you removed. The judge can at some point order you be removed from the house, and then it's just a matter of the sheriff evicting you, and that will happen once the governor removes that stay, and there's nothing that could reverse the judge's order. So hopefully that helps a little of the people that are having landlord-tenant issues.
I think it provides a little bit of clarity because I know I, for instance, didn't realize exactly what the implications were of that, or that the process would still be moving forward even under these guidelines. I think, are there any more questions coming in, or
Let me just.
have we been able to? Sara is just taking a look at some of these right now. Jeff, is there any?
Something about activating the card. They have certified twice, and they still haven't received any payments. I'm sorry. This is from a new member, Amanda. She says that it shows that he's certified, but there are still no funds to be sent. Not one person is available to talk to. I know we've had these questions in the past. She received a card. Apparently, she needed to activate it in order to get the funds, or should she be getting the funds regardless?
Well, the funds should be sent to her card regardless of whether she activates it or not. But she should activate it, and there should be a PIN number for it. Unfortunately, I can't activate it or help, so all she can do is call in if it's not being activated. And then also the recommendation is I would change it from a card if you have a bank account, and this is for everyone, to a direct deposit in your bank account. The state prefers direct deposit. I think it's a little better and you don't have all the issues with the cards. But for those that don't have a bank account, then yes, a debit card is probably the best, well, the only way to go. You have to use a debit card. So call in. Unfortunately, you have to be patient. If after a few days you can't get through, send a letter asking them to call you because you can't set up your PIN number.
The one piece of good news, at least that we're hearing from a lot of people, is whereas they weren't able to get through before, there are some more people getting through currently right now. Like you said, I guess the next problem is going to be the influx of appeals that are going to be coming in. What are you hearing from the people that you're talking to on a regular basis?
Well, everyone is having a hard time getting through, from the people that need their money, like our callers, to the legislature staff is having a hard time getting answers. It's overwhelming, and as we've talked about prior, it's not easy to hire more people to answer the phones because they're going to need training. I mean, you just can't answer the phone. You can't be in customer service at one business and all of a sudden be answering these questions with IDS. So it's hard to train this many people, and I don't know what the budget is for this too. So it's not easy, and you don't want to be calling, getting a hold of someone, and then they can't answer a single question. So just talking to someone isn't beneficial. You need to talk to someone that can solve your problem. So
we have someone who's saying that no one is answering the phones. I haven't been able to certify for a month. This is some advice that we gave yesterday, that if you call before the 5 o'clock office closes, that your call should be answered. Anthony, could you tell us a little more, maybe in comment, about some of the experience you've been dealing with? But again, I do want to reiterate that if you've called in before 5 and are holding, that we've been told by DES that they are going to be taking those calls. Correct, Jeff?
Right. And the other thing is, I mean, that's a little surprising the whole month, because everyone that's tried has eventually gotten through. It's difficult, but a month is a long time. So, you may want to try every day and a couple times during the day. I think at 8:30 may be a better time, but I don't know. And also, there should be less phone calls going in. I mean, a lot of people are now in the system. They're certified every 2 weeks. They know what they need to do. They're not having any problems. So getting through that, it should be easier. But Anthony, if you're waiting a month, you've got a huge problem. Send in a letter, whatever you're trying to do, send it to them. The address for IDS is 33 South State Street, 8th floor, Chicago, Illinois, 60603. And then if you need phone numbers, you need my phone number, you need IDS address. It's on the Facebook page, so you can listen to this video or yesterday's or the previous ones, because it'll have some good information.
Fantastic. And it sounds like, just to remind our listeners and viewers, we are going to be doing this 1 o'clock every day, try to get the information out there. I know yesterday we had an influx of people. We had an hour-long show, got a lot of questions answered. It seems like most of the questions, unless there's more, seems to have been answered. There's some frustrations which are obviously going to continue to happen as the situation unfolds. But as long as we are in a situation where we are making progress, I think that's all we can hope for.
Yes, and I think probably now is a good time to talk about the whole process, go through that once again. I know you two, Raza and Sara, probably have heard it enough, but I'm going to go through the whole process from start to finish for those that haven't and for those that are in the middle. So the first step is, if your wages has been reduced, whether you're still working or not, and this is W-2 wages, not 1099. If your wages have been reduced, you file for unemployment benefits. They will then calculate it based on your base period is 1 year. It normally is the 5th quarter ago, the 4th quarter ago, the 3rd quarter ago, and the 2nd quarter in the past. That's your base period. If for whatever reason you made more money in the last quarter and that would raise your weekly benefit amount, you could ask for an alternate base period for that calculation. So you would file for unemployment benefits. There's a lot of questions there, but most of them should be pretty easy. You do it online. The local office then would start sending out your checks. They send a notice to your employer asking them if they want to protest. Your employer can protest, and if it turns out the employer is right, you may have received money, but that money will stop and they'll ask you to pay it back. Then you need to certify every 2 weeks. If you don't certify, your unemployment benefits terminate. So if for whatever reason you miss it, it's going to terminate. So you need to contact them. If you can't contact them, once again, within 30 days, you file your appeal. You need to make sure that you appeal it, because you will never be able to get this corrected once it's stopped. And that's pretty much it. Then after the appeal, if you don't agree with the appeal, or the employer doesn't normally agree with the appeal, then you can file to the Board of Review asking that it be reviewed. If you don't like the Board of Review decision, then you can file with the Circuit Court as administrative review. And an interesting thing about it, IDS, administrative reviews with the trial court, there's no fee to file it. So while lawsuits cost in whatever county you're at, filing an administrative review with against the Illinois Department of Employment Security is free. So that's the whole process in a nutshell.
Okay, we are getting some other comments and kind of advice from some of our listeners. I'm going to read this from Crystal. I did get through every time. It's not easy. Just call, and call again. I always can get through. She just got off the phone with them. But again, it's one of those situations where persistence is going to have to be the order of the day, because it's just an influx like we haven't seen before, I guess is the best way to say it, isn't it, Jeff?
Right, and thanks for that little tip. And yes, I mean, you're going to have to be persistent, because unfortunately there's just too many people, and it's overwhelming the system. Fortunately, we're getting the checks out. I think a lot of America's gotten their stimulus check, so that's been helpful. It's a little. There's also, as I've pointed out, there's for the 1099s, we forgot to talk about this. So if you're a 1099 wage earner, on May 11th, you should be able to file. I haven't seen or heard any updates on that, but May 11th, you should. This is not a first come, first serve like the payroll protection program. It's just whether you're entitled to. So go ahead and file if you're a 1099 once it becomes available. And I would check the website every few days, because they may be ahead of schedule and get it up and running sooner, and they may be behind schedule. So May 11th may be a little optimistic.
All right. We've got another question here. I put in for unemployment and they sent me a letter saying I was getting $0. And then about 2 weeks later, they sent me a letter saying what I had applied for was no longer available in Illinois, and then asking for what he should do.
So I don't know what the person applied for. That second letter doesn't make any sense. There's a whole slew of reasons you could not be receiving benefits or be denied. So, I don't know. There's been laws in the last 20 years that allowed certain industries to get unemployment benefits that are no longer in effect. There was one years ago for the airline industry. So I don't know why. And right now you don't apply for any of those. So I'm not really sure, unless it was a 1099 that the person applied for. But as I mentioned, so there's a couple reasons. One is you're still making more wages than your weekly benefit amount. Two is they're recouping the money, so you're not entitled. Three is you haven't worked in the last 4 quarters or 5 quarters to have any benefit amount. So if you were a sole proprietor or 1099 and you didn't report wages, or you didn't get wages for the last 5 months, you won't be entitled to any benefits. And that's what's coming up on May 11th. So I'm not really sure. That caller is welcome to call and we could talk in detail. My phone number is 331-222-9529, or the website to contact us is jeffjacobsonlaw.com. Need to get a banner with the information.
Yeah. We're working on that right now. And another thing I'd like to remind people who are watching and listening is sometimes it might be easier for you to express your concern or your question personally, in which case, if you want to do that, just click on the link and we will pop you up so you can dialogue with Jeff. Sometimes it's easier just to ask your question and any follow-up questions that you might have. We're happy to read what you have and try to get an answer, but it might help with getting exactly the specifics of your case. But and then another reminder is that this is a seminar that we're doing every day, 1:00, just to try to get as many questions answered as possible and help to people who need it. So again, Jeff, appreciate you being here again, like you were yesterday. Any questions you have, Sarah, or any questions coming in?
No, just comments. They're just saying that really good information regarding unemployment and regarding the eviction. They'll definitely share that around. And thank you so much for going over the appeals process, was the other comment. So this is being useful. I know it just feels like we've been doing this one after another. It's just there is so much need, and every single time that we do any of these broadcasts, there's at least close to 50 people watching, if not more. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. If you have questions, go to our Facebook group, go to our Facebook page, reach out to Jeff. Don't just hang in there and wait for the money to flow in. If you do not appeal, if you do not take an action, it's not going to work.
Anything else you want to add, Jeff, before we wrap up here? I just want to make sure that anyone else who wants to get a question out has the opportunity to do so, but also wanted to see if there was anything else further you wanted to add, Jeff.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people that are watching this video later. I've gotten a lot of calls, this morning, last night, from someone that saw the video on Life, Love, and the Grind, or on the Illinois unemployment group. I can't remember the name now. Illinois, what do you guys refer to it as?
Unemployment guidance.
Right, the Illinois unemployment guidance. They have, and I apologize, they have seen it later, watched it when they were doing search. So this is getting all over the state of Illinois. So it's really important. And I just looked, I apologize, I was just checking to see on that case in Southern Illinois on finding the stay-at-home order didn't apply to that one legislature. There's nothing yet on the news on whether it's been appealed, but what I heard from Governor Pritzker is that he's got to appeal it because it goes against the state. So
it's something we're going to have to watch. I think he said there'd be an update on it closer to Friday as to what's happening. But it'll definitely be interesting to watch what happens with that. And it sounds yeah. It sounds like most of the questions have been answered. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think just another question on how to fix any of the data entry errors that occurred in the past. I know we've addressed them in our previous recordings. This one was about birthdays. If I entered my birthday wrong, you do not get 2 birthday cakes, as I'm told. You only get 1 birthday cake. So how do you change it?
So the only way to change it would be to call in. So once the information you submit, it's submitted in the system. But that is a good attempt to try to get 2 birthday gifts and cakes. But so you're gonna have to call in, or you can write to them. I've never heard anyone get their birth date wrong. And so I don't know how that would, if it would impact.
I've gotten the anniversary wrong a few times, but
no, this is just a shout out to the viewer that actually asked the question. It says that she was born in 2020, and you know how data entry things are. Usually, when you put in the first month and the date.
Born in 2020.
Yeah,
she's a little too young to be filing it herself.
I know. When you put in information like your first month and your date, and you kind of hit tab or skip over the second part, it defaults to today's year. So yeah, it would be illegal to have her work and then give her unemployment checks at this point.
Right.
You can go ahead and definitely call in.
So it's, and I can't tell you what the software would do. I apologize. It goes based on your Social Security. That's how they search the wages. So what happens is, for your wages, is every quarter, or if it's a large manufacturing industry company, they will report more often than not, but they'll report your wages to the state of Illinois if you work in Illinois. So it's based on Social Security. There's never any birth date that's submitted. Obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, the birth date would be used if it turns out someone else has been using your Social Security number, because then they'll compare all the facts.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that steal Social Security numbers and use those, and so when it's time to file for unemployment, you'll find out that your Social Security number has been stolen, and that may prevent or hold up your ability to get unemployment benefits. And then you have to prove with some kind of identification that it is really you. And birth date would be one of them. You need to prove it. So, hopefully there's no one that's stolen this person's social security number and actually knows their birthday. But yeah,
it's just now defaulted to 2020. So I think that's the end of our questions for today.
What?
Yeah.
Do we have this one right here? My
Nina.
benefits will finish May 4th. How do I know if I qualify for an extension if there is one in place?
So there is, and you will. So as long as you've had benefits as of May 29th, you will be receiving the extension, the federal government extension. So it definitely will happen. It sounds like, and I haven't read all the rules, but if your benefits has expired before May 29th, you will not be receiving more federal benefits now. That being said, what we found, and as you two have found, is that the Congress is changing the law every couple of weeks. I mean, sometimes they change the law within a few days. So when Congress passes a bill, that bill may impact the benefit amount. So this the new one with the $600 a week, that had a major impact, and the extension, and they may do something soon with unemployment. Although with most of the states dropping their, and I shouldn't say most, with some of the states dropping the stay-at-home order, people will be going to work. And I want to explain how that impacts people. So right now you're entitled to unemployment benefits for staying home. You're entitled to the benefits because the governor says you have to stay at home. If the governor drops that stay-at-home order and you're staying at home, you may not be entitled to unemployment benefits. So even though your kids are home, you may not be able to unemployment benefits if you stay at home. It depends on what the decisions are going to be. So right now you're entitled to benefits. In those states where the governor said there's no longer a stay-at-home order, that's going to possibly have a major impact on all the people that have been collecting unemployment.
Because you no longer have that order from the state compelling you to do that. Is that basically how that works, or?
Right. So the law is in Illinois, if your kids there's no school for your kids and you have to stay at home because of that, you don't have daycare, those kind of things, the law is you're not entitled to unemployment benefits. The reason people are entitled to unemployment benefits now is because the governor has enacted an order that allows people to stay at home and collect unemployment benefits. So once the governor terminates that order, it's going to impact people on unemployment. And quite frankly, a lot of people probably won't have jobs because who they were working for has probably closed down for a lot of people in Illinois, if not the nation. I mean, there's plenty of companies that just can't survive this, unfortunately.
Speaking of which, let's talk a little bit about PPP and any advice you might have. I talked to at least 4 people today prior to this conversation who said, well, 2 of them said that they were able to get onto PPP and it's helpful to them. Talked to another 2 people who said that it seems like the funding, at least in their states, but I don't know how that would work since it's a federal program, that they can't or they don't have access to it. Any light you can shed on that, Jeff?
So I know banks are taking applications for the PPP. There's like $500 billion that was supplemented. There's some companies that are returning the money they received. So, there's, for the state of Illinois, I'm not aware of it being running out yet, but I definitely should recommend you apply.
Absolutely. That's money that's there to help. So
Right.
Absolutely should apply and see if you qualify.
And the PPP has changed. So it initially was for if you had employers. Now you can file for PPP if it's just one person, you're a sole proprietor, and it was just you were paying, or you had other independent contractors. So it's now not just employees, but also independent contractors. You would be entitled for PPP. So there's some changes that if you initially heard and thought you couldn't file, you should file with your bank.
Could you just explain that last part again? Because if you're an independent contractor or you're doing business as, you're not perhaps an S corp. Are you saying you're still then eligible for this, or am I misunderstanding?
Right. So if you have, let's say you have no employees, but you have 1099s. Under the new law, which I think was April 13th it passed, it allows you to get payroll protection program benefits from that. So if you only have one employee that's a 1099, then you would be entitled to benefits for that person, meaning you. If let's say you have a half a dozen 1099s, you'd be entitled to that. You need to submit your 1099 that was sent in last year to your bank or documentation.
Fantastic. Sarah, any other questions that you have?
None that came in since we had this call.
Okay, sounds good. It sounds like, unless you have anything, Jeff, it sounds like we've answered most of the questions for today. I know yesterday we had quite an influx of questions coming in, and people are very grateful that this was being done. And luckily, it sounds like a lot of questions were answered there, and people can, as you said, go back later and look. We also enjoy when people collaborate like they have been doing on the side here and give each other advice.
Oh, yeah, I've been on the Illinois Unemployment Guidance page, and there are so many people helping others out. I mean, there's no way I can just answer the questions, everyone's questions, but there are so many helpful people, and that's incredible. I mean, quite frankly, I can't make masks. I'm not really good at sewing. I can't help, the medical, but, so the three of us are doing what we can to help, but there's a lot of people in the state of Illinois that are also helping everyone out, which is, a great thing. I'm really proud of everyone.
No, absolutely. It's either time to step up and help or do what you can, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of information that needs to get out there and a lot of people who can really use the information. So we're happy to do it. You take time out of your day to do it. We are able to facilitate getting this together because, again, it's information we need to get out there and get to people. So
and I stand correct. And Raza, there's just a clarification for everyone that's out there. I don't have my pajamas on. I have regular clothes on, and I am wearing a pair of jeans.
You can't see under the table, but no, Sarah did change and make it a point to be on camera, which we're very happy to have you here, Sarah. But again, as the situation unfolds, we're going to be here every day, and obviously, some days I'm going to be in my pajamas. Some days Sarah is, maybe Jeff, maybe tomorrow is your day. But the most important thing is to get the information out there and let people know what's going on, because we need to get people in a situation where they're better able to provide. And this is the way to do it.
Right. This is clearly, it appears that a lot of people have benefited from that. So, I want to thank the two of you for setting this up and keeping it running, because there are, probably thousands and thousands of people. I get calls from Springfield, from all over the state, who've seen the videos, who have questions. I get a lot of text messages and emails just thanking us for doing this. So, that's really why I do it. It's obviously it's not for the pay. It's to help people out so they can get by.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And that's why it's important for That's what we decided to, help get the message out there as well, because you've got the expertise with unemployment. We've got the technology. We have an IT person here. We have someone who does video production here. And it's times like this when you really need to step up and make sure that that you can get the message out. And of course, with the viewers who are watching and collaborating and asking their questions, we appreciate what you're doing. And hopefully this has been beneficial to you. We'll probably find out tomorrow when we're back on 1:00 tomorrow to see and make sure everything's going good. But thank you again, Jeff, for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. And I should not be in my car tomorrow at 1. So.
Sounds good. Enjoy that meal. I know you were just about to eat when we brought you on to this conference call. So we'll talk to you later. And thanks again, Jeff.
All right. Thanks, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.